If you are a Ninjago collector, there is a basically guaranteed chance that you own Zane minifigures, whether that is old Zane minifigures or new ones. He is one of the main ninja at the end of the day, so naturally speaking, if you buy Ninjago sets or anything of the likes, he's gonna be around. But if you own one Zane or if you own all of the Zanes, there is one thing that will always be the case, which is the market of Ninjago minifigures. Whether you want to sell or buy, there's always going to be the price of those minifigures that take into account. But as of lately, Zane in particular has faced a very interesting anomaly, one that I can't really explain and one that's actually really concerning at the exact same time. So in today's video, I'm going to go over what I have noticed when it does come to the Ninjago market in relation to Zane. Talk about what minifigures are affected, what's not affected, what are the ramifications of it, and what is the best possible theory as to why it is actually the case. So let me not waste any more of your time, and let's talk about the state of Zane minifigures, because I'm genuinely concerned here. So if you aren't into Ninjago minifigure collecting, let me get you up to pace so you are where we are all at. Zane is the proud owner of over 100 different Ninjago minifigures, some being canon, some being not canon, some being very expensive, some being ridiculously cheap. But the thing is that all of them have that fluctuation no matter what. One may go from really cheap to really expensive, or vice versa. The market is truly unpredictable. But that's the thing, and that's where the problem comes in. Bricklink, the main site that people use when it does come to buying Lego or specifically Ninjago minifigures, has always been a good indication as to where the pricing has been when it does come to minifigures. Zane, of course, having minifigures from 15 years ago, has naturally gotten some interesting price developments over the years. But the thing is that the most recent time when it does come to him has received a very fascinating price hike that is not in any way or shape or form shared with the rest of the ninja. Now, I will say that some of these Zane minifigures were already expensive beforehand, and honestly, it does make sense. There are 4 particular Zanes that did fall under this category. Kimono Zane, he was exclusive to the Garmatron set, so he naturally was always just a little bit up there, but never too crazy. I personally remember buying him for about £10, and that was about 7 years ago. I will say, beyond that then, you do have the battle damage version of Zane from Rebooted, exclusive to the Ninja Copter. Again, fairly expensive, but wasn't too much back in the day. NRG Zane, also kind of was up there, but that's because of the NRG Ninja. But again, he was nowhere near the likes of the other NRG Ninja, like Jay, for example. And then the last one being the actual Stone Armor Zane. That one again fell in similar vein to the Kimono Zane, where it wasn't too much, and this one at least had the added benefit of having a version in the magazine, which did have the important parts, but at the end of the day was still up there. But all 4 of these did actually have a fairly decent price point, but nothing in comparison to where it is now, and all of the other Zanes have caught up. Pilot Zane, the very original one. All of the Pilot Ninja to this very day are actually fairly cheap, but for some reason, Pilot Zane in particular has actually shot up to about £20. I remember that he was in a polybag in 2011, and that is how I got my Zane. He was really cheap, but now he's really up there. DX, of course, naturally was fairly expensive already, but again has definitely shot up in value, nearly competing with the likes of JDX, and that is not even where it ends there. Even then, the expensive ones like Zane NRG is competing in price, and then you've got the other ones like the Kendo Zane, which for some reason is also through the roof in terms of its price point. The non-accurate Stone Armor Zane is going up. All of them are just skyrocketing for no apparent reason. Even alternative methods as a way to get these Zane minifigures are being phased out. One thing that a lot of people do like to do, me included, is actually buy the important pieces individually, because typically speaking you can get them for cheaper. This is how I've gotten a handful of Ninjago minifigures in my own time. But one thing that I've noticed now is that the individual Zane pieces are also just going through the roof. Not limited to the actual Zane head print, which on its own is nearly worth £30. pounds. None of this crazy price hike could be summarized any better than one minifigure in particular. The Tournament of Elements non-canon battle damaged Zane that came out in a battle pack with Nia and 2 Sky Pirates. This is a fantastic looking Zane. One of the first times I got a battle pack and I absolutely adored it. It is a fantastic minifigure. But the thing is that for the longest time you could actually buy this Zane for 10 to 15 pounds, and I honestly thought that was pretty high, and at the time I thought that was going to be it. I believe I actually nearly bought a second one of these for custom purposes, and I didn't in the end because I didn't want to spend 10 pounds. Nowadays, an average used price of 77 pounds and an average new price of 145, making it, as far as I'm aware, the second most expensive Zane on the market. What happened? This is, by all accounts, genuinely terrifying. This entire situation is just living proof that for some reason the Zane in particular is just going up. I'm not saying none of the other ninjas are doing this. I have noticed other anomalies. For example, some of the original Lloyd heads are going for £30 as well. But the thing is that no one has seen this drastic of a change like Zane. Zane was a fairly cheap minifigure to get, and you can see that reflected in the fact that most of his newer minifigures are some of the cheaper ones you can get as well. There's only been a couple that have been not really falling in line with that, like the 10th anniversary and the Spectral suit, but that's because of how they came out. But the thing is that all the Zanes were never this bad. I remember when I was filling out gaps in my collection, Zane was one of the easiest ones to get. I remember completing every single Zane just after completing every single Cole. And I believe Cole minifigures on average were more expensive at the time. I'm not even bringing up the fact that even some of the post-Titanium Zane heads are also fairly up there. The main one actually being the Deepstone Zane, which as of the time of filming, I believe is the 5th most expensive Zane, even though he came out in 2 sets and one of them was at least a mid-size set. But again, he just became difficult to obtain, so now he is also through the roof. But I'm focusing in specifically on these human versions of Zane, because I do think they are the reason why Ninjago minifigures, or more specifically Ninjago Zane minifigures, are getting as expensive as they are. In 2026, Ninjago minifigures saw a huge rise in price because of the popularity re-emerging for the 15th anniversary. We saw the likes of Lloyd DX going over £1,000 at the time. Luckily, a lot of that has somewhat stabilized out. Lloyd DX is still way too expensive, but it wasn't over £1,000 anymore. But the thing is that we were still just staring down the barrel of so many interesting price hikes. And I think Zane is the perfect reason as to why it is actually happening to him specifically. With the rising and repopularity of these minifigures, one thing in particular that is coming into factor, which is going to be nostalgia. One thing that people do like is getting the old minifigures that they associate with the show, which is that classic era. And of course what comes with that is going to be the human version of Zane. So people are naturally going to end up buying the version of Zane that they most likely resonate with, which is the human variant. That is causing the price to go up, and it's causing all of these minifigures to become way more expensive than they actually need to be. The other ninja aren't facing it as severe as you actually may realize, because at the end of the day you can still get the pieces and the human pieces and the designs that people remember from other versions of them. You can still get many Ninjago minifigures with the actual Kai, Cole, Jay, Lloyd and Nia face prints that you do actually like. So Zane having a very narrow market for what people like is the reason why those ones specifically are becoming a whole lot more. And it explains why the head print in particular is so expensive, because people want the design that they do remember. As iconic as Titanium Zane actually is, and as popular as he is as well, coming from some of the more favorited seasons of the show, the thing is that those minifigures aren't being as crazy, even though they are going up, because people just want the human version. People remember the human version from the pilots, from season 1, from season 2, from that original few batches of episodes that we did actually get. So it's just skyrocketing. It is just going way up and up and up and up and up. And it even goes on to explain the most expensive Ninjago Zane minifigure to this very day, which is the Avatar Pink Zane. A version of him that comes from that very first season, an iconic design that people want, and people who are returning to the show will see and want for themselves, because they remember it. And what is the perfect head print to pair up with that pink Zane? The Zane head print. That is why it's all so expensive. It is just correlation with the time of Ninjago and the popularity of the minifigures once more. People buy up those specific ranges because that is the stuff that they do actually remember. It is a massive shame, and it's just making Zane very difficult to get for anyone and everyone. Like I said, living in a world where Kendo Zane of all minifigures is an expensive one is really a concerning thing to see, and obviously one that's not going to slow down, because with all of this Zane stuff being bought up, it's just naturally going to continue to raise the price. So there's just not really anything we can do about it. But the thing is that it's still just this very fascinating anomaly within the market. Still something that is just a massive shame to see for any Zane fans. You've got plenty of amazing Zane options from the recent catalogue of Ninjago. But the thing is that if you want a classic Zane, you're gonna have to pay. And that's just really sad to see because it shouldn't be this expensive. Again, remembering how cheap Zane minifigures used to be compared to now, it really is just a shame. It just goes to show that as time goes on and as we experience more and more years of this show, the more we are going to see these things happen. The more difficult it's going to be to just simply be a Ninjago collector. As someone who owns near enough every single Ninjago minifigure, I'm honestly kind of just sad to see it, because I've really enjoyed my journey in buying any and every Ninjago minifigure that I can get. But seeing it get more and more expensive really does just suck. I nowadays am just simply buying armies. I'm buying Ninjoids and Stone Warriors and Serpentine of the like. And if I needed more Zanes and more Coles, for example, I would definitely be very intimidated to get into it. It's just sad, and I really wish this wasn't the case. But this is just the climate that it's now in. But to leave it on, I guess, a somber note, because I don't really know how to put a positive spin on this, I would just like to know, do you own these Zanes? Do you own the original era of Zanes? Do you want them? Would you be prepared to pay the prices that people are asking for to truly have them? There are so many questions that go into this, and I would love to know your thoughts. But as of now, this is the Zane minifigure situation. This is the climate of Zane and what happened to his minifigure selection. And it's just, again, really a shame to see. But thank you very much for watching the video, and I do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with more people, and if you do want to support the channel any further, which you do not have to, you could always become a channel member and join the legends that you see on screen. Each of your support means the absolute world to me, and I truly cannot thank you enough. But like I said, that's about it for today, and take care. Okay,